Hello everyone, Jamie and I are unfortunately not at Gencon this weekend. Instead, we are stuck in Scotland, bringing you the best in tabletop gaming news, as we always do. I'm Ian McAllister.
And I'm Jamie Adams, and Ian stole my bit. And this is Brainwaves, episode 82, bringing you the best in board game and tabletop gaming news. As Ian said, these are the headlines for the week of the 20th of September, 2021. Frogs, white power, and controversy, oh my. GAMA elections are announced, and the Diana Jones winner is announced. All this and more on this episode of Brainwaves, which will probably be irrelevant after the weekend because everyone will say, Gencon, Gencon, Gencon.
That's fine, we don't report on new releases anyway. The game tournament fishing on Kickstarter from publisher The Gaming Goat has come under fire recently for one of the images on its campaign. The image was of a frog being held in a hand. The right hand of the frog, which has 4 fingers, was holding its smallest 2 fingers together into an OK symbol. Now, if you look up frogs being held on the internet, you will find frogs looking like they are making this gesture. So there are no problems, right? If you've been following world events at all over the last year, you'll have become aware that the OK gesture has been appropriated by the far right, especially in America during the Black Lives Matter protests. Various members of organisations like the Proud Boys could be seen making this gesture during clashes with BLM protesters and the police. Pepe the Frog is a cartoon that has also been appropriated by the far right. Put these two things together and you can understand why people might take offence at this image. How do you as a publisher react to this? Apologise and change the image? Not if you are Jeff Bergen, CEO of Gaming Goat. No, you instead put a strapline on the Kickstarter image and then kick off at anyone questioning you. That strapline was, "This is Bob the Frog. Bob is A-OK. Bob the Frog does not have a hateful bone in his body and loves everyone." Now, we aren't going to catalogue all the horrible things said by Jeff Bergen, but as an example in response to Suzanne, a well-known board game commentator on Twitter, calling him out on the image, there was a conversation on Bergen's Facebook page. At one point, one of the commentators said, in regards to Suzanne, "This person looks like they'd be a lot of fun at parties." In response to this, Bergen said, "I bet only us could make her fun at a party. You down for the challenge?" The attitude of Gaming Goat to the controversy has led to designers breaking ties with the company. Artem Safarov, whose problems with Unbroken and Golden Bell we have covered in the past, has withdrawn his planned project with the company from publication. The smash hit Regicide, that has been all over the place recently, is from Badgers from Mars, who have chosen to end their contract with the company as well. Both of these design teams are small and taking a financial hit in doing this, so please support them if you can, and we'll put some links to them in the show notes if we can find some ways to support them. Board Game Geek suspended the accounts of Jeff Bergen and Greg Mahler, another designer who's run afoul of the site previously, and weighed in on this so-called debate. Gaming Goat will not be allowed to advertise on Board Game Geek in the future. Bruno Faduti posted on Board Game Geek in response to this story, and just a warning, in this quote, there is some swearing. Several French game designers have ongoing contracts with the Gaming Goat, and some projects were nearing production. We are trying collectively to find a common way out of this shithole and won't tell more until we have found it. Now, Gencon is going on at the moment as we record. We're recording on the 18th of September and it's going on over this weekend. They had previously stated that Bergen was not attending. When he showed up, he was escorted from the premises by security. According to him, that was without any notification. It should be noted throughout this that Jeff Bergen has constantly called out cancel culture, which to us is a huge red flag as to his intentions. The image may have been innocently made by the artist behind it, and it may have genuinely been put out there without that thought as to what it could possibly imply. However, the image isn't really the problem. What is the problem here has been the response of Jeff Bergen, the Gaming Goat, and a bunch of people basically calling out cancel culture in response to this. Their response has been awful, and it's not cancel culture, it's consequence culture. You've basically kicked back at everyone saying like, hey, maybe you want to change that image because of the implication there. But your response has basically said, we think this is totally fine. These images and this implication is totally fine. And that's terrible. It's awful. Unfortunately, because of the way Board Game Geek works, it has meant that this game has been at the top of the hotness list or near it for the last couple of weeks because The hotness list is basically based on how much people are talking about a game on Board Game Geek, not what it's actually like, or any controversies around it. But, dear listeners, we are not done with controversy in the board game industry. I mean, are we ever? Really, the Game Manufacturing Association have elections going on at the moment for various positions on the directorial board. And those came to their conclusion on the 16th of September, a couple of days ago. During the election process, T Cares put themselves forward for the position of director in the publisher's position. T Cares is involved with Habit Games and is a well-known commentator on Board Game Twitter. This led to a huge backlash against T Care's attempt to get elected from Sarah Shah, a video creator who makes fast breakdowns of board games and what they are about under the title Board Games in a Minute. During 2020, Sarah came under scrutiny for travelling during the pandemic and various photos of her at Florida resorts not wearing a mask amongst crowds. One of the results of this was that lots of people flocked to her cause who have rather vocal right-wing views, and Sarah tolerated their presence in her followers. I personally know of some folk who reached out to Sarah to express their concerns about these followers, but these offers of help and expressions of concern fell on deaf ears. T Cares was one of the people who had crossed swords with Sarah before, and the arguments boiled over onto Twitter over the course of the GAMA election process. Words were exchanged, accusations went back and forth, and when Suzanne, whom we mentioned above, got involved, it got even uglier. The TLDR of this is that Sarah thought T Cares should not be on the GAMA board because of what she saw as harassment that Sarah had been subjected to by T Cares and others in the American critical community. Sarah has repeatedly claimed that no one has reached out to her privately about the views of some of her followers. We aren't done with Jeff Bergen, though. Jeff Bergen decided to side with Sarah and proceeded to offer to pay people's GAMA dues and fees for new members, presumably to try and tilt the votes in his preferred direction. GAMA has announced the result of those elections, with T Cares taking 41% of the vote in their category. Steve Bussard was elected in that position. That's the publisher's position on the board. We have not previously reported on the spats going on Twitter amongst American critical circles, which tend to crop up fairly frequently, and especially over 2020. We basically didn't consider them news at the time because it was arguments and controversy going on between the critic community, and it wasn't really big news as such. When it started to affect GAMA, which is a big industry body, obviously that is news as far as we're concerned. Anyway, Jamie, that's enough of really nasty headlines. How about something nice?
Well, by the time you're listening to this, dear listener, Gencon will have ended in Indiana, and there'll be lots of lovely board gaming tidbits that we won't be able to tell you about because, well, unless you come and harangue us, we won't know. Well, we won't be able to put into this podcast. But Gencon also means one other thing, and that is the announcement of the Diana Jones Award. Now, the 2021 Diana Jones Award has been awarded to Nibcard Games, a company at the centre of the Nigerian board gaming industry. From Nibcard's website, their mission is threefold. Production, create high-quality games at a possible low cost that can compete globally. Promotion, encourage an active tabletop gaming community in Africa. And publishing, inspire and support African tabletop game designers to create world-class games. Simple, effective, I like it. Along these, they run a games cafe in Abuja, which is the first games cafe in Nigeria, and Nigeria's first gaming convention, ABCon. Now, a lot of this, almost all of it, is down to Nibcard's founder, and I'm going to say right now, I apologise profusely for this white man pronunciation, but I will do my best, I promise. Kenichukwu Obuagu, or KC. KC responded on Twitter, "We accept and thank the committee behind the selection and hosting of the award. I dedicate this to God and to my mum. Thank you to everyone who has trusted and supported us. So many names to mention. You made this possible. And we are not stopping. Our vision is clear and our conviction is strong. The team is stoked and we can't wait to meet some of you at ABCCon this December, either virtually or in person. Super thanks once again for the recognition. Huge congratulations to KC, all at Nibcard Games, and well done to all the finalists. The fact you were nominated, Joes, you're pretty bloody excellent. KC and Nibcard, enjoy your Perspex Pyramid. I cannot wait to hear more about Nibcard Games."
Yeah, no, fantastic. I've had my eye on the card games for a while, just because they're doing something interesting and different, and it's great to see diversity in the hobby awarded. And as we've said before, we really like awards where they're actually lifting up smaller things and drawing attention to different things, and not just sort of giving awards out to the same old games over and over and over again. It's really great to see. I really like Diana Jones' award, as we've said before. It's a really diverse, interesting award.
As you said, raising up new games, like that's the Diana Jones Award. It isn't just games; it's games, it's designers, it's
the whole
companies,
community of game.
It's communities. It is within gaming itself. It is not the product.
Indeed.
Now, on to the rest of the news. Ian, I believe you have an update from the world of Kryn.
Indeed. Back in episodes 59, 64, and 65, we reported on a dispute between the authors of the Dragonlance novels and Wizards of the Coast. The dispute was eventually resolved, and now it turns out that one of the outcomes of the settlement is that Dragonlance will be coming to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition as a new book called Sky Raiders of Abarax from the Dragonlance writers Tracy and Laura Hickman. Good to see that come to a fruitful conclusion. You excited about that, Jamie? I don't really know Dragonlance terribly well.
I don't know Dragonlance very much either. I know of it by reputation. The Spelljammer game I played in quite a while ago now had some characters from Dragonlance, not named characters, just NPCs who were from the Dragonlance setting. But it sounds pretty good, and I'm glad it's come to a fruitful conclusion. It's sad that it maybe wasn't, an official Wizards of the Coast product, but at the end of the day, Dragonlance is coming back. So, does it really need the Wizards of the Coast branding? No.
No, indeed.
It's now got such a life it can stand on its own 2 feet. Except, Kender. Ugh.
I mean, dragons would be really helpful in sorting out the global shipping situation, I think, Jimmy.
I don't know. They want paying in gold.
Yeah, fair point.
And before anyone tweets at me or messages me, I know that different dragons in the D&D setting accept different things. I'm going for the simple, basic, red dragon, classic dragon analogy that everyone will be able to get. Thank you very much. Anyway, I'm going to take up Ian's link now that I've done my little bit, and say that we have reported a number of times on the global shipping crisis and how it's affecting board games, because it's a serious problem, and not just for board games, for the entire world. Well, now it seems those consequences are starting to become much, much more tangible. Asmodee has just announced the increase in prices of several key titles across its catalogue, including such titles like Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, Mansions of Madness, and Cosmic Encounter. Ravensburger North America has announced that it is temporarily suspending all new orders from the 17th of September. The statement, that we will share in full, basically alludes to them being unable to fulfill current orders. They hope to be able to fulfill again as we go into the fourth quarter and towards the holiday 2021 season. I mean, suspending sales, that's big. I mean, Ravensburger, yeah. I mean, they do things like Villainous, Jaws, all
the Prospero Hall tie-in film games there, all through Ravensburger. They've been doing extremely well. I mean, Ravensburger have been having a great 2020 and into 2021 with those titles.
Because Prospero Hall is a fantastic design collective.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed everything I've played by them, and presumably what they're doing is they're trying to stockpile a bit for Christmas so they can fulfill the Christmas demand when that comes around. But this is bound to hit smaller game shops and people who relied on those titles to make some money. It's a huge move. I mean, if I as regular listeners to this cast know, I work in the bike industry. I manage a small bike shop in Edinburgh. If one of our suppliers would just say we're not producing parts anymore, that'd be incredible. I mean, some of them are almost there anyway because some parts are in short supply, but for them to actually suspend orders would be astonishing. I've never heard of a distributor like this doing that. It's quite extraordinary. That's done with updates. Our first piece of news is a sad one, unfortunately. We are announcing the passing of Reuben Klamer, inventor, entrepreneur, and games designer at the age of 99. Klamer designed the modern version of Game of Life, the original, of course, being made by Milton Bradley, and considered to be the second most popular board game sold, with some estimates putting the sales at 70 million copies worldwide. He also pioneered using polyethylene in the toy industry as a shatter-resistant plastic, did special effects for the TV series The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and created the phaser rifle for the original Star Trek episode Where No Man Has Gone Before. Mr. Klamer was inducted into the Hasbro Inventors Hall of Fame in 2000, the Toy Industry Hall of Fame in 2005, and received the TAGI, Toy and Game International Excellence Lifetime Achievement Award, in 2009. The thoughts of Jamie and myself are with his family at this difficult time. I mean, I may jokingly dismiss games like Monopoly, but there is no denying the influence that these more mainstream games have had on individuals who will go on to design all sorts of games, including the ones we consider more hobby games.
A man with many strings to his bow. Board games, entrepreneurship, working in special effects, prop making, and he was also a business investor. And, well, yeah, he's, as you said, we make fun of Monopoly. We sometimes make fun of the quote unquote more classic games, but their influence is undeniable.
Yeah, they get some people into gaming, and those are people we play games with sometimes. So yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Jamie, it looks like you're not done with awards quite right. It looks like you've got a second hat on under there.
Oh, my award Homburg. It's dual layered for the cold. As well as the Diana Jones Award, we also had hot new news for us anyway, which was the announcement of the Ennie Awards, which were also announced at Gencon. As ever, there are numerous categories, so we'll just pick out some to highlight to you. The Ennies are an RPG-focused series of awards. Now, at the moment, the Ennies site is not updated, so you'll have to go to their Twitter feed for the full results. In each category, there is a gold and silver award. Now, the indie hit Alice is Missing from Renegade Game Studios, which is an RPG played entirely via text message, garnered several awards including Product of the Year, gold, Best Game, gold, and Best Rules, gold. UK publisher Rowan, Rook and Deckard grabbed a bunch of awards for their game Heart, which is the follow-up to their game Spire, including Best Game, silver, Best Setting, gold, Best Writing, gold, Best Layout and Design, gold, Best Monster/Adversary, gold, Best Art Interior, silver, and Best Art Cover, silver. Other notable companies and products were Free League Publishing or Fria Lagen, winning several awards for Alien and Vasen, their game of Swedish monster hunting. Those are two separate games, by the way, not Alien and Vasen. Alien, pause, and Vasen, which is their game of Swedish monster hunting.
No, they both use the same system, so you could do a crossover.
Oh my. Ian, I believe you did review Vasen.
I have, yeah. I haven't run Vasen, but I've been doing some player-facing RPG reviews on the site. So basically, as a player, how does Vasen feel to me? That review was up on the site recently, and I also talked about investigation games in general in that piece as well.
Cool.
Congratulations to all the winners, especially Rowan, Rook and Deckard, really sweeping the boards a bit with Heart there.
Yeah.
Grabbing a huge number of rewards. There's a couple of interesting, cool little RPGs in there. Alice is Missing sounds interesting. I might have to check that one out. And there was one I shared earlier today before we started recording in our RPG Corner chat in our Discord called Brancalonia, which is a spaghetti fantasy RPG, sort of Italian fantasy RPG, which sounds really interesting, based in 5th edition rule set for D&D. But yeah, lots of cool little interesting things to check out there, I think.
Now, going from RPGs to a big old, what do you call it? CCG? LCG?
Hard to tell.
HTT.
Something like that. You might remember the game Keyforge, the card game from Fantasy Flight Games, where every deck is a unique combination of cards. Every deck has its own unique set of cards in it. Now, there was an update recently from Fantasy Flight Games, which first and foremost established that the COVID-19 pandemic had hit the game hard from a distribution and development perspective. There are several announcements in the statement. Alongside plans for a digital version from Stainless Games, Fantasy Flight Games says, "We have decided to put the game on hiatus for the time being, with plans to relaunch the game with new life at a later date," citing both the pandemic and another unforeseen complication. That unforeseen complication is the deck building algorithm for Keyforge is broken and needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Now, when this was announced, several rumours began springing up around that news, including that they had lost the unique deck license in some way or form, or that a worker had left Fancy Flight Games and they were the only person who knew how to work the algorithm. This is all speculation, I'd like to remind everyone. Keyforge developer Aaron Haltom went on Twitter to squash those speculations and clarified that they had had a big loss of data. We're not entirely sure that clears it up. There's a big crossover between people who play board games, or RPGs, or tabletop games in general, and people who use computers a lot, or especially in their livelihoods, and know programming and programming languages and that kind of thing. We've had chats on our Discord about this, and I've had chats with various other people, including my friends' circle, who work with computers on a daily basis, and they all said exactly the same thing. You can't break an algorithm. It's kind of a strange thing to say. Now, data loss is possible if they've basically lost all the previous unique decks made through Keyforge in some kind of massive data loss, no backup or something. Then I guess they could no longer say that every deck is unique, because any new decks that the algorithm generated might be duplicating previous ones because they wouldn't know. But yeah, it's a curious thing to say. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle of all the rumors. But yeah, hard to tell what's going on there. But they have announced a new Keyforge set. They had their in-flight report recently where they did say there is a new Keyforge set coming. But when is a matter of some speculation. That's alongside all their other new products. Fancy Flight were being very cagey about when any new announced projects would be coming out, partly, I would imagine, because of the global shipping crisis and manufacturing problems. We'll bring you more on that if we hear it. But Jamie, other companies are having weird things happen.
Yes, we tune into our new regular, semi-regular, hopefully not regular segment of board game crime news. Thank you. Yes, Dateline, Brainwaves HQ, some news. A group of professional thieves. I'm going to stop this because it's hurting my throat, and also, yeah. A group of what has been described as professional thieves broke into the warehouse owned by Pandasaurus Games and managed to nick several not yet released games. Around 100 copies of the Kickstarter version of Dinosaur World, the sequel to Dinosaur Island, and 200 copies of Trixie time travel game Loop were spirited away. These games were given to an online seller who has put them up for sale on sites such as eBay. Now, according to Pandasaurus' update to their Kickstarter, they have enough copies to fulfill their promised deliveries, but are asking the public to be extra vigilant and on the lookout for any copies for sale online. Also, the police are involved and have apparently already identified the thieves. Stay vigilant. Board games are luxury items and serious business. Don't have nightmares. Good night. I could do Crime Watch.
You could. I'll just put you forward for it next time there's a vacancy or something. That's quite an incredible story. But imagine being those thieves, right? Like, did you mean to steal board games? Because that doesn't seem like a very profitable thing to steal.
So you say it's a strange suggestion, Ian, but I'm looking at the Kickstarter page for Dinosaur World right now. And the all-in pledge for Dinosaur World was $105.
Okay, that's significant money.
And if that's 200 copies...
Yeah.
At $105 each. That is a lot of money. About 10,000?
21,000.
There you go. Now that's Kickstarter copies. Now, if that's not been released yet, and it is available online, the board gaming community itself, who loves a bit of that, will snap that up. And probably a bit more than they could have bought it for.
Indeed.
So... And I think, of course, they knew exactly what they were doing. This is, as I said, board games are a luxury hobby, and as it becomes more and more prominent, people become more and more aware of how expensive these things are.
True. I mean, we've reported on before about
counterfeit board games.
Counterfeit board games, and like our astonishment that people will do that. But of course, as Jamie rightly points out, they're luxury items, so there is money to be made there through thefts and faking them. Hopefully not the start of a trend.
You say that.
We have some late breaking news now. Pegasus Spiele have announced that they are opening up a North American branch. Their current head offices are in Friedberg, Germany. Johanna Sadkovic is promoted from sales and marketing executive to CEO of the new branch of the company. And Anthony Boyd, previously director of sales at Lucky Duck Games, joins as sales director. There are other job openings available at this new branch of Pegasus Spiele, and we will add a link to those in the show notes. I think we're going to see a bit more of this kind of thing in the next little while because of global shipping problems. I can see companies who can do it, who have got the size, opening up some more worldwide branches, especially like North America, Europe, making sure they have offices in both places in order to deal with Kickstarter fulfillment, in order to deal with warehousing, in order to deal with things more locally. I think we're going to see more of this, personally. What do you think, Jamie?
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, of course we are.
Insightful commentary as always.
No, I believe, as I mean, I can't really add to what you've said.
No, you can't.
There's been the shipping problem, there's been distribution problem, and as things become potentially more fractured, a centralized base may become more of an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. So spreading yourself a bit wider, that's going to help. We'd like to give a wee shout now to all our patrons. Thank you so much for continuing to support us and the cast, especially to Shaun Newan, our executive producer from the game-a-lot team. We'll add links to all of Shaun's bits and pieces in the show notes. You can join our Patreon, of course, for just $1 a month, and you can support us in loads of other ways if you don't want to do that. We have a tie-up with Metallic Dice Games in the States. They produce very nice dice and dice accessories. If you use the promo code ROLLWITHBRAINS, all capital letters, all one word, you'll get a wee discount and we'll get a bit of a cut. And we also have some merchandise through Sir Meeple, who produce very nice t-shirts for all sorts of gaming outlets, including We're Not Wizards, one of our fellow Scottish podcasts. So you can get good, nice t-shirts on there, and we get a really healthy cut of the profits on that. So if you would like to show your affiliation to our lovely podcast, then do so that way, and we'll get a bit of money. Anyway, Jamie, just before we go, there's something in the air tonight.
Not Phil Collins, but rather magic. Some Gencon magic. Now, Pictionary. I know, I was... You're expecting Monopoly. Not Monopoly today, I'm afraid.
It's literally your job.
Not literally my job. But I am going to talk about Pictionary. Classic game that has families yelling at each other that why they can't know dignity when they see it. But Pictionary has come into the 21st century in a new way. Pictionary Air is a game where the drawer draws in the air with a special pen, and a teammate videos them with an app, and hey presto, the drawing appears in the air. Does that make sense?
Yes! Sort of. Sounds like a lot of work. I mean, I could just draw things with a pencil, right?
Yeah, but it's magic, Ian. It's in the air. Cuts down on paper wastage as well.
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of magic in some regards.
I mean, it's kind of a cool bit of tech. I'll give it that. If it works.
At Gencon, Harry Potter Pictionary Air was released, and the pen is in the shape of the 11-inch holly and phoenix feather wand wielded by the eponymous wizard himself. It does sound like a faff and a half, but it's good to see it moving with the times.
I guess. I mean, like, Pictionary's good because it's simple. Like, it's straightforward and simple. I don't know if adding, like, a tech layer to it is really necessary, but, I mean, it's cool. It's cool tech. The tech is kind of interesting and fun, but, yeah, not sure.
Adds an extra... I mean, you say that. You against your board game app integration. It adds an extra layer.
I'm not against board game app integration. I love board game app integration.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Ian McAllister is against board game app integration. The extra challenge of drawing in the air where you don't know what you're drawing.
I played Forgotten Waters recently with its app integration. It's good. I like it. Very cool. Also voice acting. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. If you like what you've listened to, then the best way to help us out is to share the podcast and drop us a wee review and rating on iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We are mostly active on Twitter these days. Our website is giantbrain.co.uk, where you can find all our reviews and the podcasts themselves. If you want to email us about any stories you have for the cast or anything, if you'd like to comment on anything on the cast, we'll read those out. That's giantbrainuk@gmail.com. And our main place of chatting and business these days is our Discord. We'll put an invite link to that in the show notes. You'd be very welcome along. Every Tuesday after the cast goes out, we have games night on there, which you'd be very welcome to come along and join in on. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Good start.
Get it all out.
I'm going to cut that and pin it as an Easter egg at the end.